Hey guys, so I said I would release the video tomorrow about the AI podcast personalization, mentioning that I can get this person on this podcast, and that podcast. I think this approach is ultimately powerful because as a podcast agency owner, I wouldn't want to do that manually, right? Here I did it with 8,000 people, so you can see the scale of AI. And yeah, as you can, or as you could see on my screen, let's say this person here, she's feeding pets of the homeless, which is pretty cool. Um, I'm suggesting to her three podcasts related to what she does, right? Animal welfare advocates, social impact podcasts, nonprofit leadership podcast. So, and then my AI explains why she'd be a good fit. Can share insights on the intersection of homelessness and animal welfare, highlighting the important work your organization does. And yeah, it does that for 8,000 people that I just added to that. By the way, this is launching from 5 mailboxes that I just set today, and they had, I think, 2 or 3 positive replies today, which just shows how my systems perform well. And also, like, yeah, if you have a good offer, people will say yes to your stuff, right? There's random companies in there, Microsoft. Maybe I could have done a better job here, but 3 podcasts I can get VC Lab on. By the way, yeah, this headline could be a bit better, but I like also writing as I speak and being a bit familiar, right? So Masters of Scale, which is pretty good. Tim Ferriss Show, the pitch, pretty VC-ish, right? My agency Podpire uses AI outreach to get you on podcasts such as Boom. And the final is, if this is of interest, I'd love to discuss the idea further with you. It's a soft call to action. So what do you guys think about that? Do you think it's going to work? Quite bullish on that. I'd love to scale this approach to the sky. These are Apollo lists here, and this is the prompt. Usual information feeding. Mention the top 3 podcasts they should be invited as a guest to. Could have been formulated better. Only return the result, no asterisk, number your findings. The result should be returned in the second person, and following the podcast name, briefly mention the why. Again, not my best prompt, but yeah, did the job and got the answers for 8K people, integrated nicely in my Apollo email, and I think that it's gonna work pretty well. I have a couple of offers for my podcast agency. If you caught me at the right time, I book podcasts for like $100. I mean, if I get someone on the Tim Ferriss Show, it might be like a 10K check that I would charge. But yeah, for these people receiving these emails, gonna be my classic packages, right? 3.5K per month is what I'm gonna charge to get them on various podcasts, and hopefully launch some AI sales campaigns as well for them. Going on podcasts is ultimately powerful. I've launched campaigns for myself today again, and I probably do every week, and I'll probably do every day to get myself on podcasts. It's an organic channel, and what I really like about podcasts is, like, if I'm on a podcast, like I was today, you can see what I published. With Mark Talukdar, I can publish like 30 shorts videos on 4 platforms. That's like 120 videos off one podcast interview, right? So if you catch a very good host like my friend Mark Talukdar, you'll just produce amazing content. It's really authentic. It's a conversation. You show up energized, right, with your best answers, and you can get a bunch of views, a bunch of clients, a bunch of authority out of that. So still very, very bullish on podcasting on my end. And this campaign, I think it's gonna work pretty well for these people. They should be on these podcasts, right? getting on one podcast can change a life. I mean, the extreme example is Joe Rogan, right? And obviously Tim Ferriss, right? How many lives have these folks, these two folks change? But yeah, you can start and scale the uh, the staircase of podcasts and of fame and of influence, and eventually you'll get to the final Tim Ferriss stair. So yeah, a bit sloppy, my brain, at the end of this day. I'm actually going to bed. But what do you guys think of that? Do you want the prompt? Do you want the list? Are you thinking of launching your own podcast agency? And an obvious one for those of you that are listening that want to get on podcasts, I do also outreach for example, the Tim Ferriss show, right? Like I would do like specific outreach to the Tim Ferriss show to mention that you'd be a good fit with AI, of course. I've dropped a video before. I think I did that 2 weeks ago, but of course I'm gonna drop another one. It's so good because it takes like the essence of the show, your essence, and the AI matches both, right? And you can do that for 100, 500, 1,000 shows that should be a fit on. Like I said, the goal is not always to go on top podcasts and reach number one on the charts from day one, right? You need to scale. You need to start with low-hanging podcasts, which don't have that many views usually. And from there, you can scale up and up and up. So yeah, I'd be glad to help you with your own podcast. See my own podcast keywords videos on my YouTube channel. And yeah, stay tuned for this next video that I'm gonna make about you getting on these other podcasts and personalizing the emails that you'd be sending to get on these podcasts. So have a good day, a good night, and yeah, let me know if you want the prompt and the list.